Workshops. Next Tuesday we start a safe food series, which is targeted towards restaurant owners. It's from 5 to 6. It's a free class. We're starting our Dream Builder Accelerated business planning class. It's a 4-week condensed version of our 8-week business planning class, and that starts October 16th, Monday night. And we have a lot of other exciting events coming up throughout now and the end of the year. October 31st, the day before the health insurance market officially opens, we're having a Healthcare in Iowa, everything you need to know now. So that should be pretty illustrative for a lot of us. Christina, if you want to say a few words, and then we'll get going.
Yeah, well, hi everybody. The partnership is always excited to co-host these with the Women's Business Center. I've worked with the Women's Business Center in many aspects, including when I was with the Small Business Development Center. And we continue to partner, so I do kind of everything that falls under small business with the partnership. So if you are a chamber member, I am a resource to you, and a lot of times we end up referring right out to the Women's Business Center. So when the series started going, I told Emily I thought it was amazing and we would love to help them with it. So we have a couple things that we do with entrepreneurs as well that we have coming up. So October 25th, once a month, we do a top 5 for small business, and it focuses on an area such as IT, accounting, HR, marketing, hiring. So October 25th, we have one coming up. It is the top 5 things you need to know about hiring. So if you're looking to hire employees, Davis Brown, 2 of the attorneys there, will be coming in to teach that class with us. It is held downtown, but we also live simulcast it out, so you're welcome to jump on and watch with us live is an option. If you are a retailer, on November 1st, we are hosting a live stream with Google. They're live streaming from their headquarters at the partnership. It is everything you need to know for the holiday to reach your customers. So it's very holiday focused. They will give you tips and tricks with your Google account to reach those customers. And then the big one we have coming is on November 10th, we have our Small Business Success Summit. It is being hosted at the FFA Center up in Ankeny. It's $79 for the entire day. It includes 3 keynotes, one which will be Google. We'll be teaching live here. Things coming for 2018 and why our phones are becoming the #1 primary place that people search us and what we need to know about that. The second keynote is Chad Willett comes and talks about, now that you're up and running, our innovation sometimes starts to go down. And if we don't continue to be innovative, we will kind of have our competition sweep us away. So he'll come in and teach how to stay innovative as you grow. And the third keynote is Dr. Sandra Kamphoff. She's a psychologist that comes in and teaches leadership from a psychology standpoint. So being small business owners, how many of us went to leadership school before we started our business? We just kind of fell into it, right? So the one thing we know, in order to grow our business, we need to be great leaders, but we also need to be able to develop other leaders to help us grow the company. So she'll come in and teach that. And then the 18 breakout sessions, again, are anything from what I need to know about QuickBooks to marketing to SEOs to goal setting is one, increasing sales is a session. So all of those will be coming, and we have 28 resource partners, which one is in the room, Bankers Trust. And then of course, the Women's Business Center will be helping us with the event as well. So our hope is that if you have questions, you bring them with you, and those 28 resource partners will be right there to get those answered for you. So again, that's November 10th, and that is the big one coming. Registration just opened for that. We only have 400 seats available, and it's open to 6,000 of our members plus the statewide region. So if you're interested, I encourage you to jump on. So thank you, Rachel, for being here today. We're excited to co-host this, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Cool. Right. Thanks. So I have known Rachel since I was born, I think. You used to be my babysitter, and when I realized that you were running Sticks, I was like, oh my gosh, what a perfect person to have to talk about Sticks and to share your story. So tell everyone how you got started.
Sure.
How did you end up on the path of ownership?
Well, thanks for having me, guys. First of all, unlike some entrepreneurs that start their business themselves, I actually grew up watching the formation of Sticks. My mother started the business in 1992, incorporated, but before that, my childhood was spent in the back of a van going from art fair to art fair, having different components of the business, at times being located in our house, going after school to different incarnations of an art studio, and kind of watching this thing turn from one person to 2 people to 3 people to 4 people and so on and so forth. When I was in college, I worked in an art gallery, but was doing my major in things other than art. And the store that I worked in at the time was willing to try this product that I knew a lot about, and so we brought it in. And so I had my first kind of foray into selling, and it was really successful, partially because I think I had this deep connection to this story and this product. After graduating college, I moved back to Des Moines for what I thought was going to be a short interim while my husband was finishing law school, and I thought, you know what, I've got this marketing and communications degree concept thing that I didn't really know what it meant, and I'll go see if I can try sticks for a year or 2 and see what happens. What I found was that marketing and communications was interesting to me, but I loved selling. And I think if you talk to anybody who's ever grown something or started something, the ability to sell is kind of the crux of it. And found after a year or 2 of doing this that I was really passionate about what I'd grown up and seen, because it had turned into something different. There were a lot of young people there at the company at the time, and we were really given the ability to take accounts and take product lines and try different things with them. So I had a couple different roles. I tried. So I spent some time in retail, which was very humbling. I think anybody who hasn't worked in retail or waited tables probably should give that a try before they decide to go and be entrepreneurial, because it's humbling, and it really gives you the one-on-one experience of knowing what customers think of your product. Seeing that firsthand is critical to being able to talk about it and understand it, especially if you're wholesaling, to be able to talk to your end buyers and say, this is what I've seen in the actual marketplace. So I had a little bit of retail, I had a little bit of sales, I had a little bit of marketing, I had a little bit of communications, and after a few years of doing this, I realized that the reason that I was putting myself in these different positions was because I really wanted to step into a role of leadership. And that kind of coincided perfectly at the time when Sarah decided that, she'd put 18, 20 years in this thing and kind of needed to take a step back, which a lot of business owners get to that point. It becomes very personal. It becomes your life. Things go up and down in a business, and you can get so into it that making changes or moving in new directions can kind of be difficult. So fortunately and unfortunately for me, at the time when I kind of started moving into more of a management position was right around the time of the economic downturn. And we had made and still do make really high-end product. We make 100% made by hand, furniture, home accessories. And when you make things by hand and you make them in America, it's inherently expensive. And we didn't really have a lot of competitors, but we knew that our customer base was definitely what we now think of as the top 1%. We were selling in galleries and fine furniture stores and art stores that were in places where there was high tourism, second home ownership. So we knew what our market was, but we didn't really know what was going to happen with the economy until it was probably August of 2008. We had on the books for third, fourth, and first quarter about $750,000 worth of orders that was just going to accounts in Florida. And almost overnight, those accounts one by one called and everybody canceled their orders. And we thought, what is going on here? Well, a week later, countrywide happened, and then things kind of fell off. And so for me to step in at that time was like I said, a good thing and a bad thing. It was a bad thing because it was a terribly traumatic time. Sarah said, I'm at the point where I've built this thing and I can't objectively take it through what needs to happen. But the good thing was for me, professionally, was that I really had to figure out how to start this thing over in a period of regrowth and redevelopment. So that's kind of where I came into what I do now.
Sure.
I kind of think of it a little bit like a phoenix. You know, you start at that place, and anybody who was in manufacturing or in retail or selling the types of things that we were in that time period knew or knows now that, you know, half of the people that you had, wholesalers, suppliers, customers, they kind of disappeared. Not everybody came out of that, and those of us that did had to make some decisions that really changed and impacted what our businesses look like today.
Sure.
So I guess that's kind of how I got from there to where I am now.
So how did you go about first kind of onboarding and taking over and, you know, being a manager, and then what changes did you have to make?
Well, I think the most important thing to understand about being a manager and stepping into a role and having a staff that is willing to kind of go through a transition like that is that you have to be able to get your feet wet and your hands dirty. And so, you know, having had a few different roles in different positions, as of today, I can legitimately tell you I have swept floors, I have gone at 3 in the morning when the alarm goes off, I have loaded up packing crates, I have driven trucks to clients in different parts of the country.
You do what you gotta do.
You have to do it all, and you have to do it alongside the people that are there with you. Our business is unique in that our average employee has been with us for 17 years, which, as this being our 25th official year incorporated in business, is huge. And so to have the respective people that maybe have been there even longer than I have, which has been at this point 15, 16 years, you really have to have their trust that that they know what you're doing and you know what they're doing. So while I, you know, am not a painter or a drawer, I certainly can go down those departments and have really, you know, in-depth conversations about what we're doing from a design perspective, what we're doing from a shipping perspective, what we're doing from an accounting perspective. So being, you know, a little bit versed in all of those areas, I think is really important, and that certainly helped me.
So when you were getting started, did you, like, from the get-go have to change anything drastically from what they were doing to kind of try and stay in balance with the economic downturn?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, within 2 years, our workforce was, I would say, pretty much cut in half. And that was one of the first things that we knew we needed to do to kind of shore things up. It is hard to do, and one of the things that I stepped up and did was say, I'm going to be the one that goes in the room and tells people. And it was about it. To lay 50 people off takes a long time, and it was really difficult and it was really emotional. But it gives you a little bit of a backbone in knowing that when you have to make a decision, it doesn't feel good sometimes, but the outcome was for the benefit of everybody that was there. So that was the first thing that we did, but then we moved into a period of regrowth where for many years we were selling at this amazing rate. We weren't focusing on looking at product categories, we weren't focusing on looking at efficiencies, we weren't focusing on looking at markets, and so immediately we took our entire product offering and said, what makes sense, what's viable, and what's not. And that was actually one of the most fascinating processes that I've ever gone through, because you realize that to make a lamp, you're looking at the cost of wiring, you're looking at the cost of switches, and every single one of those little pennies trickles down to a profitability margin. So we went through a period of looking at what we wanted to make and what made sense to make and what our customers wanted to make, and that was a great process because we really were able to bring in all of these retailers of ours, people that were purchasing from us wholesale, and saying, what is working for you? And some of the things that they said was working for them were things that we knew we might not be able to continue to supply. So being able to look at that and kind of figure out what we could make, what we could do new that would fit some of these niches to keep our retailers happy was really important. Most of our retailers have our top retailers have been with us for a very long time, and I would say over half of our retailers, to them, our business is their number one line. So without our line in their stores, they were not going to be able to keep going too. So that type of a relationship, while it can put a lot of stress and pressure on you, is also really gratifying to know that those relationships that we invested in, those stores that we invested in, they were going to be in this with us, and we were going to be in that with them.
So did you stop making lamps?
Lamps got very expensive, and it's one of those items that, you know, used to be a big category for us. It's not anymore. But we still do it. What we really found in terms of products that we needed to stop making was smaller objects. for a lot of stores or manufacturers, they have the ability to price based on volume and quantity. In our business, every single piece that we make is, like I said, made by hand. And so your costs don't decrease when you make one or you make 500. And so on those smaller items where we were like, okay, this is great, the store's ordering 50 of these a month, when you're making, an 11% or 12% profit margin, it became really difficult. And we're expending more energy on those than on the bigger pieces. And that kind of led us into a new product line that we've developed over the last 2 years that I can get to later on. But that allowed us to kind of say, we need to make something that's in that smaller price point category that opens us up to different types of retailers. Yeah.
And when you, to give people a scope, how many are you in all 50 states? How many retailers are you in?
We have, in terms of our handmade core line, about 140 stores around the country. 2 years ago, we were looking at our stores and realizing a few things. We were realizing that the average age of the people that owned our stores was at a place where a lot of them were looking to retire. And we were also seeing a huge change in terms of what Main Street America looked like. Main Street America used to be brick and mortar stores. It used to be locally owned stores. It used to be family stores. And with the advent of 2008, 2009, that was changing. Jordan Creeks were being built. Big box stores were taking over. And what I don't think anybody in retail was ready to admit until just the last few years was the massive presence of online retailing. And so one of the things that it's a whole separate conversation, but the Amazon, it's not only the elephant in the room, it is what has changed how everybody sells. So in 2008, we went live online with direct retail, which was a very difficult decision because our retailers were saying, you're gonna sell everywhere and I've got this investment of your product on my floor. And what we said was, yes, we have to, because our store in Houston closed. And until I can find another store in Houston, I have, what was a $75,000 a year market that cannot supply product to people. So how we walked that line with our accounts was, it was sometimes heated, but we made decisions along the way that strengthened those relationships. The first thing we decided to do was to price ourselves above what we knew our brick and mortar stores were selling at. So a typical retail markup is about 2.2. A $10 item wholesale turns into $22 on a store. We moved ourselves to a 2.35. We also refused to play the free shipping game, which at that point was the only way that people were buying and shopping and selling anything. So anything that was going to be on our website was going to have that associated shipping cost with it. And the rate and the amount at which we ran promotions was going to be tied in with our retailers. So if we were going to run a week-long promotion on mirrors, let's say, we went to those retailers and gave them a 2-week heads up and said, join us in this. Let us do all of your advertising design for you. Let us create your constant contact emails, and let us put you on our website and in our email promotions, linking your store, your Google address, your Facebook page, your website to this thing with us. And if you sell something, and if you reorder something that's tied to this promotion, then we'll give you an incentive. And that built a level of trust with those people that allowed a lot of them to realize that the internet and selling online was not their enemy. And again, remember, this was almost 10 years ago, so it was a different type of environment then. So we built some of these things, and we kind of got to this place. And our number one concern was that there was no way to decrease the cost of what we were making. But the marketplace couldn't take a 3, 4, 5% price increase every year like we were seeing from our cost of goods, and we were seeing with health insurance costs, and we were seeing with all of these things. So we, a few years ago, said we really need to put R&D and time and money and people into looking at alternative products that we can make that excite our customer base, but that can appeal to a larger buyer. So we launched a line this year that was, like I said, 2 years in the making, called Sincerely Sticks, which was taking our best-selling designs, our best-selling small accessory pieces, and we brought in-house technology that allows us to print onto some of the same products that we make by hand, and offer at a price that's about 75% below our handmade line. We agonized over whether this was something that we take overseas and license to someone else. We agonized over whether we took it overseas and had it produced and then brought it back here and sold. But we went back to our roots and realized that made in America, made by hand, made by artists were three of the key things that went along with our work. And so we were able to bring this technology in to our own studio, train our artists on how to do some of these printing techniques, do the finishing work, build the pieces, do the staining all on site. And so what we really have created is two products that can walk side by side. They appeal to two different buyers, but at that new price point, you're asking how many accounts we have. We went from 150 just doing wholesale to about 3 times that many selling this new line.
Well, and it's a different kind of retailer.
And it's a different kind of retailer. So, you know, in terms of entrepreneurial thinking, back to your first question, you don't necessarily have to start the idea. You don't necessarily have to, you know, build the building or do whatever it is you have to do. You have to be able to take an idea and make it relevant year to year, situation to situation.
Sure.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about, you mentioned how Sarah started Sticks in a garage. What was one of her first core products?
The way that the business started was kind of serendipitous. She has a fine art degree, a couple fine art degrees, and was teaching at Iowa State and doing abstract painting, very, very different from anything that our company makes. And with the luck of having Better Homes and Gardens here in Des Moines, had a friend who was an editor who said, I need a piece for this holiday catalog. I can't find an artist to make it, and the reason is because my budget's $500, and she was like, I'll do it, I'll come up with something. And so the idea of this small Christmas nativity piece came to be, and it went in the magazine, and luckily for us, people decided not to make their own. They decided to call up and say, can you make one for me? The lesson with that piece, and I think one component that's aside from selling and marketing and branding and all of those things, is intellectual property, which is something that I spend an inordinate amount of time on, and I wish I didn't have to. But brand protection, design protection, intellectual, I mean, any type, it doesn't have to be something that's tangible. It's writing, it's music, it's whatever. Being really proprietary and true to your brand and watching that and protecting it has been something that's been very critical for us, because as we're here now today, 25 years later, we own the rights to absolutely everything that we do, and we file it all the time, everything from trade dress to trademark. If you look us up in the Library of Congress, it's not a picture that you'll see necessarily under our trade dress. It's a written description of what we do, and to come up with that was very laborious, but absolutely critical in defining our niche and for us to be able to keep, infringers off of us.
And was that a realization that Sarah had, that an employee had? Was it a lawyer that had been working with Sticks?
It was at the time of incorporation, and so, finding those right people to help you guide through that, and they said, let's go ahead and just set a few of these things up. I think it's worth kind of putting in place. And then as we went along and found that, we'd go to a show or we'd go in a store, and then all of a sudden, I can tell you crazy stories. We would go in a store, and then all of a sudden one of the employees in that store would quit, and then they were making it and selling it here. It was never a product that was so serious that it was in the marketplace widespread, but we were able to send a really quick letter that said, hey, look up, the Library of Congress, 22-9, blah, blah, whatever it is. So you might not want to do this. And luckily we've been able to do it that way, but it's the ongoing upkeep and maintenance of those copyrights that is really critical.
I feel like I've seen things at Hy-Vee that are almost reminiscent of, the work that you guys produce, whether it's black and white check marks or wood burning with similar color schemes. So
yeah, and that brand in particular, I know what it is because we've looked into it. A lot of them, well, it's an overseas, and we we've been in the marketplace.
It is made in China.
Yeah, and we do the New York show, we do the Atlanta show, we do Las Vegas. So obviously you're there and you're seeing, those people are smart enough to take it 3 degrees away from exactly what we have written in our thing. And we have competitors that'll call it, or accounts that'll call us and say, I saw this, and I just said, pick it up, feel it. Yeah. It's made out of plastic. You can scratch the top right off, and quite frankly, it's ugly. So you take your pick, and your customers. If your customer wants that, then by all means do it.
But it's nice they're looking out for you. To even call call you
Yeah.
and say, I saw this, it reminds
Yeah.
me. And
So we take it as flattery.
Yeah.
We take it as flattery.
That's a good mindset to have. So the fairs, I didn't know you would go to fairs. Are they art fairs, design fairs, furniture?
These are international buyers markets. So
Okay.
these are markets, if you're in the manufacturing world and you want to take yourself to the next level, this was more critical probably 10, 15, 20 years ago than it is today, and a lot of that's because of the fact that you can take product on to online marketplaces. But actual buying and wholesale trade shows are pretty critical. And you know, it's literally you pack up a crate, you ship it off, you go, you set up a booth, and you smile and sit on your feet for 12 hours a day. It's hard work.
Sure.
But if you want to find exposure in certain markets, it's one thing that makes a lot of sense.
Is that where boutique owners would go and potentially see your product to buy?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's anything from small buyers to the buyers for Nordstrom's, the buyers for Walmart, the buyers for everything. The Las Vegas show that I went to in July of this year, I mean, you're talking about 150,000 buyers through in a 2-week time period. So it's,
Wow.
yeah, and it's people from all over the world. You can see everything from, you know, Ralph Lauren Home has a whole floor, and then we have a little 10 by 10 booth down and around the corner in a different area. So it's everything. And they're kind of fun. And, you know, one of the fun things that I get to do, we have a retail store here in Des Moines. I get to go and pick out the fun stuff that we sell. So that's like a great perk of,
And your retail stores in the East Village?
yes, yeah, we decided to do retail locally here in 2003. I think most people in Des Moines think of that as being like the number one part of our business and what we do. It's a really small part of our business in terms of the whole pie, but the number one thing that we get out of it is that we can test products. We can put new designs in there. Before we launched this new Sincerely Sticks line to all of our accounts and took it to market, we put it in our store for 3 months. We wanted to make sure that it held up. We wanted to make sure that people understood what it was. We wanted to understand how to market it, how to talk about it. You know, we hadn't even drafted any of the marketing pieces because we didn't know what the reaction and the interaction was going to be from our own buyers. So that's really kind of a fun thing, aside from being able to sell our work and then the work of a bunch of our other American craft friends, people that we know that make cool stuff too.
Has Sincerely Sticks kind of rolled out and grown as you thought it would?
It has, and
Because when did you launch it officially?
we launched it officially to wholesale in February of this year.
Okay.
And we, you know, to launch a line like this and to scale it is one of the most terrifying things that you can do, because we were walking blind and we had to self-fund to do this. And when you're a small business and you're deciding to do this during your slow time, because that's the only time you can work something like this into your line, this was either like a make or break type thing. And so we had all hands on deck to do it. Luckily now we're at the point moving into fourth quarter where we have pushed it to our maximum output. So one of the things that we're now doing internally is looking at this and saying, okay, if we want to sell more, if we want to output more, what is the investment?
Because you could sell more. There's a demand for it.
There is, and
That's awesome.
before we go to that level, you want to make sure that it's sustainable,
Right.
you know. But it really changes our business model. Is the space that we're in conducive to making this type of product? Is the type of fulfillment that we're doing sense? You know, does that make sense? Does it make sense to get ourselves into more of a back order situation before we do growth and get away from immediate and instant fulfillment? So a lot of those questions are scary, and for the first time in my role with the company, the concept of scaling has come into play, and you really have to reach out and talk to a lot of people. And aside from trusting your gut and your instinct, you have to make sure that you have the numbers. And you know, like I said, February to now isn't huge, but we hadn't had a line that had done that in a very long time. The other exciting thing is that for the first time, we're starting to have conversations with bigger national retailers that are coming to us and saying, okay, I've always loved your product. It was too expensive for Nordstrom's. It was too expensive for the Bon-Ton stores. Now you have a price point that works. Can you do fulfillment for me? Can I get the quantity and the volume that I want? Oh, and by the way, when I order 1,000 units, I want a 20% discount on wholesale. These are unknown questions. And so, you know,
what do you do?
You
Like,
pick
I'll
up-
think about it.
you say, oh, well, I'll get back to you tomorrow. And you sit at home and honestly, you call up other manufacturers and you
Yeah.
say, okay, when your product got put in Zulily catalog. How did you do it? And they might not know you, but you've got to ask those questions because there's nothing out there that tells you how to do it.
And was it worth it?
And was it worth it?
Yeah.
What did it do to your brand exposure? Is a $2 million contract over a year, 2 years with Walmart worth the exposure of your brand, or does it hurt it? And I've heard both sides of it.
Sure.
The number one Walmart story that scares me is the new Pioneer woman. Is that her name?
Mm-hmm.
She took a line straight into there for tabletop and was really worried about what it would do to her brand. She sold $250,000 worth of it in 2 years. So, she wasn't making it. That wasn't her scalability, but that was the opposite reaction that I assumed from going into a lower end retailer. I assumed that diminished your brand recognition and your brand,
kind of strength.
Yes,
and,
exactly.
Yeah, sure.
So to circle back to when I was mentioning Amazon, one of the things that whenever I get an opportunity to talk to people, is anybody in here in wholesale or manufacturing or sales or retail at all? Okay. There is absolutely no way to get around what is happening with online commerce. I have watched it. In fact, I was talking to one of my better accounts the other day, and I said, Leah, we've got to get your order in for holiday, and what are you thinking? And she goes, what holiday? Holiday doesn't exist anymore. It's 1 week before Christmas when Amazon can't get people stuff in time.
Well,
yeah, and it took me by surprise, and I thought, you know what, she is totally right. She is totally right. And I try and not be part of the problem, but it's really easy at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday to go on I need diapers, they'll be here tomorrow. The difference is people are going on there, they are price shopping, they want that free shipping, they want whatever it is to whittle down that price. And Amazon is willing to do that for a cut. And so we made the decision that if our product was going to be on Amazon, it was going to be us that put it on there. Mm-hmm. It's a whole new learning curve because how they do their search engines, how they do anything that's SEO Amazon is completely different from anything that's Google or anything that's website based. It does not follow the same algorithms, it does not follow the same search words, because what Amazon wants to do is find products that are going to maximize cut and return for them. Mm-hmm. So if you are not letting Amazon do your fulfillment, if you are not letting Amazon do your brokered shipping for you, then all of a sudden when somebody searches, I swear to God, I can search my own product on Amazon and I'm like the 50th one that pops up, because they want the fulfiller who's going to get them the bigger return. So if you have any product that's out there, what I would say, because I don't even fully understand it enough, find a company, find a consultant who understands how to do Amazon-based SEO, and take it very seriously. Because when you drive out to Valley West Mall and you see, empty spaces and you see empty parking lots, that is not because people don't like what's in Von Mar. It's not because they don't like what's in Yonkers. It's because they're going there, they're looking it up, they're putting it in their phone, and they're saving $6 and it's coming straight to their house. I think that there's a couple changes that will happen with that. I think that states and the federal government needs to look at the loss of sales tax revenue. I think that it's in the billions and billions and billions of dollars, and I think that once that's recognized, maybe that there'll be some rollback. But if you're in retail, do not underestimate and do not be scared of it. Become part of it on your own terms. And that's still something that I'm kind of working through.
So you have the Sincerely Sticks on Amazon, and did you start that shortly after in February, March?
It takes a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
If you're not a certified Amazon seller, like I said, there's a lot of hoops. But we're doing it. We are bringing in some people to help us get better at it. Mm-hmm. And we're making sure that we're doing the same thing that we did with our other product, which was holding those prices, so it is competitive with the people who've made investment in brick and mortar stores and in solid hands-on supply.
Sure. So you talked a little about scalability. You guys currently have one main manufacturing spot, and you've been there for about 15 years, 20?
Maybe not. Yeah, about 17, 18 years.
Okay. It's over off of Park Avenue on the south side. Beautiful building. You rent it out for events. And so when items are done there, do they get shipped off right away? Are they going
Yeah.
downtown to the store? What's your sort of workflow cycle like? Raw goods
Yeah.
get delivered. I want to hear your supply chain.
Yes, so it's raw goods in the door, finished goods right back out. We're a one-stop manufacturing facility, and that's pretty rare. It also is probably a contributing factor to the expense of what it is that we make, but it also allows us to still say things like handmade, artisan made, made in Iowa, made in the United States. Even that one's hard to find when you really go looking for it. So yeah, we work with a bunch of really great local suppliers. Raw lumber comes in, it gets built, it gets fashioned into whatever the item is. All of our pieces are hand drawn. They're then wood burned, hand painted, finished, and shipped out the door. So with our new line, it's kind of interesting because the products are going through the floor simultaneously, but we're still in so much of a learning process that we're trying to decide if our traditional manufacturing setup is conducive to the efficiencies that we want with this new product line or not, and that remains to be determined. That's part of the fun at this point. Looking at those end of the week production numbers and seeing where you had gains, where you had losses, what the products are that are doing what you want them to do.
Are you guys still making custom furniture?
Yeah, so that's kind of a niche for us. Out of our handmade products that we make, about 40% of our overall orders are custom direct for end buyers. So for example, you could come into my store or any store in the country that sells our product, and you could say, I want a coffee table, and I want, all my dogs on it, and I want all these words, and I want this, I want these places we've traveled, and here's my wallpaper swatch, and here's my carpet color,
And here's the size I want it to be, and spec it out.
Yeah, so that just inherently in itself is really labor intensive, but it also is really experience based and experience driven. And so when we talk about our product, when we market our product, we really talk about that connection between you and your piece and a team of artists that, no joke, are sitting down and looking at your exact file. And they will call you up when they're in the process and say, hey, is that really how you spell your golden retriever's name? Because I'm doing this right now and I don't want to mess it up, and that is just, it's a cool experience. One of the best calls that I get, or letters or emails, are from people that say, okay, we have a mirror and a lazy Susan. We have 3 kids, and they are so worried that when we die that there's not going to be one for them. So I need one more piece to kind of round this out. And that was one of the things that helped us move into the direction of this new line. We knew we had collectors. We knew we had people who really loved our brand and had followed us. We also knew that there were a lot of people who loved our brand and followed us, but were not able to purchase our product because of the cost. And so this made a product that we could have at a different marketable price point. It also gave us a product that our collectors and our aficionados could buy and give as a gift. And those are 2 things that we have legitimately heard back from our customers since we put this out there, which is so awesome. There's nothing better than unsolicited reaction from customers. And when you get that, you have to listen to it. You have to share it with your team. You have to stick it on the break room refrigerator. You have to let them know what it is that people are saying out there, because it does make a huge difference. And you can't take for granted that the person in the wood shop or the person in the shipping department wants to hear that feedback. If they take pride in what they do, they want to be part of the whole thing. So we really try to put that out there.
So Sticks today, how many people work there?
Including
your retail shop.
Including our retail shop, we're probably right around 50 full-time employees. We have a good number of part-time employees because of the fact that we have artists and we have retail. We're able to open some positions that are flexible. So, I've had employees that have worked full-time for 15 years that come to me and they're like, my kids are in high school. I want to be there when they're home. Can I, for the next couple of years, work this schedule? And we're like, absolutely. You are too valuable to not have that mix. I've had people who were in our painting department for years come to me and say, you know what, I have always wanted to run a retail store. I think I can give it a try. And so we're able to kind of move people around. I've had people that have decided to go to night school and become accountants, and they want to do that. So focusing on those people and having them wanting to be part of us. And when somebody knows that many parts of your business, man, I mean, if you're in accounting, but you also know what happens in the painting department, and you are looking at a cost analysis report, you're gonna see something that an accountant down the road in an office firm they'd never catch it. They would never see it.
That's a valuable employee.
It is, it's a valuable employee, and it's also a valuable thing of having an open and interactive type of work environment.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, as a kid, did you ever think that you'd be working for
Not
Sticks?
in a million years.
No? Were you an artist as a kid? Did you paint a little?
You know, as sad as it is to say, I loved art. I loved doing art, but my mom, Sarah, she kind of was like, you don't want to go down this road. Just it is a hard road. Find something else. So I don't want to say she discouraged it, but you know, if you go, and it might still be like this today, but if you go to art school, they don't necessarily sit down and tell you much about how to be a business person. When really, at the end of the day, if you're going to be an artist, you're making a product that you need to know how to sell. And I think that's unfortunately true for a lot of different types of career choices that young people make. It's one of the things I tell any intern that walks in the door, like, know how to sell something, know how to know how to market yourself at the very least. But yeah, you know, like I said, people that I talked to that found themselves in sales doing any sort of thing, if they were good at it and they liked it, then there's a lot of ways to go. So,
Sure.
yeah.
So is Sarah still involved a little? Does she come in and like say hey to people just to make
She
sure they're working?
comes in and she says hey. You know, we do installation projects. We do like big projects for nonprofits or corporations, universities, places like that. Any project like that that has a research side to it, she loves that stuff.
Sure.
I think she's at the point where, you know, drawing, you know, the same thing every day maybe would not be for her, but you know, she also has like 6 grandkids in Des Moines at this point, so that makes her pretty happy. And the great thing for her is that she has really re-energized her painting career, which kind of went on hold when she found herself as a business person. So yeah, she's in a good place, and there's never a week that goes by that I don't call and say I've got this crazy problem, and she'll be like, that happened in 1995. Let me rack my brain. What did we do? You know, you've got to have, even if it's not someone within your own business, you've got to find people out there. I've got a couple friends that I grew up with that we all kind of came back to Des Moines, and 2 guys in particular that ended up back in family businesses in a very similar situation to me. You know, 2007 to 2008, the other family person in the business said, I'm out of here, you know, and they found themselves doing this. And so to be able to call them up, and they do nothing similar to what I do, but be able to call them up and be like, oh my gosh, what are you going to do about this healthcare thing, you know? And to be able to bounce that off somebody who's kind of walking through the same deal is critically important. So finding those resources, and sometimes if they're not a really close friend, it's better, you know? Going to things and meeting people that do things similar to you is really important. Creating your own resource group.
I have to share a story from my youth about Sticks because it just made me think the brand was the coolest ever. I remember when Rachel's sister Hannah came to school and was like, Ashton Kutcher owns a Sticks piece. And then we were all obsessed with Ashton Kutcher and Sticks, and we're like trying to see like Sticks and pictures in his house or something. So you really do work with some high-end clients. Has there ever been a story where you're just like, I can't make this client happy, or like, what do you do when
that happens.
Things get escalated probably, and so when you have to combat
that happens. You know, customer service is the #1 thing. And that's one thing about my job that sometimes isn't so fun, because when you have a person who's really irate and they're not happy, then the buck stops with me, and I've been yelled at, you know, but at the end of the day, you just have to make it right. I have this lovely woman right now that I'm working with who lives in Missouri, who retired from teaching and had been dreaming about this dining table that she wanted for years, and she came to Des Moines. She designed this thing. It was beautiful and stunning, and the shipping company broke it into a number of pieces and left it on her doorstep. And now it's on me, you know, to get it back from her. I mean, and this stuff happens a lot more than you think.
Yeah, well, you're dealing with shipping companies.
Oh God, they're the worst.
Yeah.
If you can do anything that doesn't involve shipping companies. Yeah, and so it's, you know, it's calling this woman up and saying, this is, you know, not saying, this is not my fault, I didn't do this, but saying, I am so sorry that this happened, we're gonna make this right. And I'm at the point with this one where we may or may not get the full value back from the shipping company, but it doesn't matter. A new table went into production that next day because I can't afford to have some woman out there who's, this was her retirement gift to herself, you know? You gotta fix it. So those kind of suck sometimes, but yeah, one of my favorite famous people stories. We had this order that came in a couple of years ago from our gallery bars in Ojai, California, and it was for a trunk, and it was big keepsake trunk. It's a great piece that we do, very Americana, and it was for a baby, and it had all these things on it. It had like a yellow brick road, and it had like a rocket ship, and all of these things, music notes and pianos. I'm looking at this thing, I'm like, this is for Elton John's kid. Like, there is no question in my mind. So we called her, I'm like, that who it's, she's like, you cannot say anything. It's so quiet, like, you can't even take a picture. Oh, but you're reading through all these things about this person's life that they want on this trunk, and you're like, duh, like, yeah.
Was there like a song lyric that you're like, that's it?
I mean, it was just, the
whole package.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it was like the greatest hits album in icons and imagery, so.
Yeah. Well, you've been awesome, but I like to open it up for questions because I just ask what pops into my head.
Yeah.
So, questions from the audience for Rachel about sticks or what's next? Yeah.
When you're talking about like expanding, like when you is there like a barometer for you to know that there's like a right time, or like is it just fully based on you playing out the numbers and seeing what that looks like?
So the interesting thing for us, because of the new line that we've put out there, expansion and growth is not what we would have thought about before. It's, unfortunately, in this situation, it's probably not more people. It's probably not more space. It's actually us being able to make more with less. So for us, growth with this line might look like something that we would have never thought of before. Emily mentioned this great studio space that we're in. We're not utilizing the majority of this building like we used to. With the cost of overhead and workman's comp in our shop, a couple of my shop guys now produce their stuff in home shops, and they bring it to us. And that was a situation that worked better for them to be a 1099 outsourced employee. So for us, growth, it's rethinking it, you know? It's rethinking making more in a different way. I'm not at the point to make that decision, but I can tell you that it's the number one thing that my management team and I are looking at on a weekly basis. How much are we making with which types of skilled people, and what does output look like under different scenarios, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it's not like this, you know, you can't just like off to the races with it.
It's incredible to think that you could double the production of a particular product with only one more person, but investing in an amazing piece of American-made technology.
Right.
That was the one thing that allowed us to do this. This was not an idea that we hadn't had before. It was that the technology out there didn't exist. The printer and the type of way that we're making this product was the size of a semi-truck 5 years ago. Now it's the size of a Volkswagen. So, and it would have taken 5 people 5 years ago to work this machine. Today it's one skilled person. And we were able to go to our production floor. Actually, it's David he's worked for us for 14 years. He was in our wood burning department. He's like, I want to do this. This is awesome. So we were able to give him the training, and I mean, he's a highly skilled artist. And it was just, in his way, he thought, and he knows, that this is, in one way, job security, but it's also being part of something new. So growth looks different depending on what type of growth you're looking at, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Can you take a tour of your studio and really, I've been in it for Invest in She, right?
Yeah.
But you know, everything's kind of hidden away and you can't really see anything. Do you do that? Can the public come in and see what the process is?
They can. There's this organization called OSHA that does it. they are like the most fun to work with. I
don't think we draw the OSHA crowd.
You know, occasionally I'll have a client who will call and be like, we're road tripping across America and we have, you know, all this stick stuff. Can we stop? I will for that. But we have machines and bandsaws and, you know, hot wood burning tools, and so we really don't. It's a bummer, because it's cool to see. We also realized after doing tours off and on, you know, we've done them, we haven't done them. We made people wear like special shoes and hats, and that was goofy, because you don't need that, but it's, again, it's the OSHA rules. We realized that it was really, we're a manufacturing facility, and every time somebody would stop and talk to one of our artists while they were making something, that's like 8 minutes. But when you are clocking in and off of pieces, and 8 minutes equals so many percentages of a dollar or a nickel or whatever it is. So I guess that's the long answer.
Did you reassess your brand at any point? I mean, did you look at, that's a long time, you know, there's a lot of good equities that you have built into it. And when you were looking at this additional line, did you go back and look at the brand and say what's critical that we keep and what are the things that we can modify or change?
Yeah, we really have decided that with our core handmade brand, the bigger pieces, the more heirloom pieces, the pieces that have more attention and more hands on them, those were the pieces that people thought of when they thought of us. They were the pieces that our people liked to make. They were the pieces that were the most profitable. You know, we tried for many years, and we still do, I shouldn't say we don't. We would come out with a whole new collection. We would like rethink design and rethink color, and we tried to be on trend, and we would look at the Pantones for the year, and finally we stepped back and we were like, we're doing this, and some people are buying, what they want is this look and that we've become. And so part of this new line is kind of back to our roots a little bit. It's a small product offering. You know, like Lazy Susans, it's the goofiest piece in the world. It's our #1 selling item. We sell tons of them. When we decided to move some of these to print, we went back and pulled out orders from the last 3 years and went through them, and it was very evident. We had a 4 Seasons landscape theme that people loved. We had a modern icon theme people loved. We had a wine and cheese theme that people loved.
Okay.
And so, and we knew that. We just wanted to back it up by looking at something.
Yeah.
So. Staying true to that brand is really important, and at 25 years I think it's easy for us to say this is what people are looking at from us. What we need to do from a brand is maintain quality and maintain relevancy. Yeah.
Are you guys still making like mammoth furniture pieces, like pool tables if someone were to order one?
Yeah.
I remember that used to be in your larger showroom in the East Village.
Yeah. You know, our best-selling furniture pieces are definitely dining tables. I think that when you talk about American folk art and you talk about the fact that we tell stories through imagery, the dining table is that place where as a family, as a community, you come together, you share a meal, you share a story. So it's just, it makes sense that that would be the piece that people gravitate to for that. So yeah, that's probably our #1 selling piece. Coffee tables, benches, lamps. Wall art, those types of things. That's a lot of what we see. In fact, today when I was leaving, we had this customer who's working for almost a year on a big, giant, beautiful china hutch. And we'd gone back and forth, and we'd sketched things, and they'd sent us things. And finally today, the gallery called. They were like, they put their money down. We're doing it. It's like, oh, that's so cool. This is a huge piece, you know, that will be permanently in somebody's home. This is a built into the wall type thing. So that's cool. Yeah.
So you work with a lot of galleries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our #1. That's our #1 place. Yeah.
Other questions? Sorry. Go ahead.
To piggyback on what you were saying, have you ever thought about possibly maybe doing a video?
A video tour.
Like,
Oh, a video tour?
Like a video tour, or even a documentary for historical purposes for years to come and have your mom.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things about that, and we go back and forth, it goes back to that intellectual property and that proprietary stuff. And we walk a really fine line. People call me all the time, call their art number, what kind of paint do you use? It's like, what? Really? Really? You really want to know what kind of, or are you going to try and like go home and get all DIY and, you know? So we'd love to make a video, but at the same time, I don't want to give away the secret sauce because there really is a secret sauce to it. So I have a wonderful team of marketing people. We utilize a lot of interns because even a 26-year-old Iowa State marketing and graphic design grad is almost out of date in terms of what's new with social media and those types of things. So we have a great team of people that are always doing that. I think video is becoming definitely a bigger part of it, but at the same time, you don't want to give away the recipe. So that's a hard one.
Good question, though.
Yeah, good question.
You'd make a good video.
So you mentioned the proprietary and intellectual property stuff, and so you send these letters to people who go off and say, oh, I'm gonna repeat that. Is that how you handle it with employees? How do you protect that within your organization?
When employees are onboarded and they start, they sign a non-compete that says, you know, I'm not gonna go and make this. We've only had that problem once or twice, but the really cool thing about our employee base, we are hiring artists. So the majority of our production people, and even a lot of our office staff, these are individuals with 4-year art degrees, a lot of them with master's degrees. They are in art galleries all around Des Moines, some of the most prestigious art galleries here in town, where they exhibit their own work, which looks nothing like what they make 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. But what I think we have that can offer some of these people is that full-time job without the uncertainty of, am I gonna get a show, am I gonna sell a painting? But they're trained and they're skilled enough to the point where they can adapt and learn our brand style. Our brand and our style is not one person. Honestly, it wasn't Sarah sitting down and doing it all. It was a collaboration of many people over many years that evolved into a look. And they take great pride in what they do. So to have somebody take that and really do something over here, we've been lucky not to have that. But we're also a really tight group of people. So I think in that way, we probably, hopefully won't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there anything coming up at Sticks or at your retail store, since we are all here and hopefully some of us do support local small businesses? Do you have
Yeah.
there's a holiday crawl in the East Village, do you guys do that?
Yeah, I mean, I would tell you, if you haven't spent time in the historic East Village, it is the coolest thing that's happened in Des Moines in a long time. It is so many great local retailers and business owners and creators. The East Village Promenade is one of my most
That's what it's
favorite
called,
events of
Promenade.
the year. It is super fun. And you know, one other quick thing about the East Village, because there is debate amongst different business owners in Des Moines. When the Jimmy Johns came in a few years ago, it was a big hubbub. We were going to let Jimmy Johns in, and my answer was, you've got people that are down here at hourly rates that need a $6 sandwich and not a $15 salad. But the other one is Crate and Barrel. West Elm.
Yeah.
And is that diminishing who we are as a neighborhood, and is that going to put businesses and stores like mine and other ones out of business? And my opinion on that is, bring it on. It makes more people come to our neighborhood looking for cool furniture, looking for cool stuff. It puts us on the map. I think you can go too far and turn into the Kansas City Country Club Plaza, where there's nothing handmade anymore.
Right.
But we've got some really smart zoning people, we've got some really smart business people down there that are super involved and do a great job. So
And you're on,
we're on East 4th
Fourth,
between
okay.
Locust and Grand.
cool.
Yeah.
When is the promenade, do you know?
It is the Friday before Thanksgiving. Yeah, so mark your calendar. It is a really fun night if you've never gone. So.
Yeah.
What is your advice for someone just starting up and getting their name out there? And also, what do you think about pop-up stores?
That's a great question. I don't think you can put enough emphasis on social media. I feel like I missed that didn't even exist when I was in college. We were like learning how to buy, print ads and stuff, which nobody does anymore. You cannot underestimate the power of social media. And if you can't do it yourself, find somebody, find some interns, play around with it. That's huge. And in terms of pop-up stores, I've done them. I actually did a pop-up store in Kansas City 2 Christmases in a row. It was super fun. It was super great. I think it was right when people were starting to do it, and they were doing it at that time because so many stores had closed immediately after the recession. That retail store owners, people that own shopping centers, were trying to find a way to make even some money. I think that if you can make the dollars and cents work, I think it's a total no-brainer. Yeah, but just know going in that you want to come out with no inventory.
Right.
Because if you end up pop up with even 40% of your merchandise, 25%, you're then you're sitting on it, wait until the next one. And carrying inventory can be an expensive thing to do. Yeah.
Cool. Well, Rachel, you've been awesome.
Thanks, guys. This
Thanks
was
so
an
much
honor. I
for
appreciate
being
it.
here. I learned a a lot, so I hope everyone else did. If you guys can turn in your evaluation forms on the way out, and you're welcome to hang and chat for a few minutes.